right, let's get down to business. Roll tape. What's up, everyone? Welcome to my channel, Bounded and Bookmarked. It's me, Jaleesa. Welcome back. If you're not new, welcome if you are. And today's video is one that I was so excited to do because this is the first video in a series, a very long, ongoing series I'm gonna do all year. So yeah, we're gonna be here for a while. But before I get into the video, if you have not yet subscribed to my channel, don't forget to do so below. And I will have my Instagram and my Twitter link below, like I always say every video. Yes, it will be there if you wanna follow me anywhere. But yeah, so the series I'm talking about, it doesn't have a name yet. By the time I post this video, it will have a name. It is a throwback series where I read kind of books that either people have already read, like majority of booktube and book Twitter has already read and either loved or liked. I don't really want to read series people didn't like, but yeah, loved or liked. And books that came out like a long time ago, like the early 2000s, late 2010s, that whole shebang. We have our first completed series. I'm not done with the whole thing yet, but I'm done with the first trilogy, so we're gonna talk about that today because I have some thoughts and some things to say about it. So the first series, per my title in my video, in my thumbnail, the first series is The Infernal Devices by Cassandra Clare. So we're gonna start with each book and then kind of do an overall discussion about the whole trilogy. Let's start with the first book, which is The Clockwork Angel. In this book, we're introduced to all the characters. We're introduced to Tessa and her brother, the Dark Sisters, James and Will, and some other people at the Institute. The Magister, we're introduced to some of the magic in this world and how it works. So this book, just for those who don't know, follows Tessa, and she gets a letter and a ticket to London from her brother, who is telling her that she must come to London to see him. And so when she gets there, she's kidnapped by the Dark Sisters, who take her in as a hostage, and they force her to kind of use her power. She's learning about her power simply because someone else called the Magister wants to take her power and use her. Her power is simply that she can take an object from someone, a personal object, and she can turn into that person. Not only that, but she can tap into their thoughts as well. So that's pretty cool. Now, my rating for this book, I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars. I might have even been debating about 2.5. I'm not sure. I can't remember, but I ended up giving it 3 stars because I feel like overall, for a first book, it wasn't that good. Thankfully, I have my friends to tell me that this whole entire series, the whole Shadowhunter series, is actually very good. So I have high hopes. Yeah, this first book was not it for me. I don't like that because I feel like a first book in a series should be the book that grabs me and pulls me into the series and makes me want to keep reading. This book didn't do that. So when it came to the magic in the world building and Tessa and what she could do, and even the other Shadowhunters, I just don't think this book showcased them that well. With Tessa, her character was very, like, I didn't care for her at all in this first book. Actually, to be honest with you, I didn't care about any of the characters in this first book. Not Jem, not Will, not Tessa, because I don't feel like anything happened that made me want to reach out and say, oh no, I need you to stay in this book, or oh no, this is happening to you. I didn't care about any of them. Nothing really happened in this first book. So in this second book, and mind you, I will be going through kind of spoilers here, just a few maybe. So in the second book, we follow Tessa, and she is still at the Institute in London with the Shadowhunters. And here we find out that her brother was just not good. We learn about Tessa's real history, who her real family is, and we also learn about the Magister and his whole gripe towards the Shadowhunters in the Institute. He has a very personal vendetta against them, and he wants to eradicate all the Shadowhunters. And he wants to do this by starting a war between these automatons that he's created, which are basically robots. But then also someone in this book, from the first book, who ends up betraying the Institute. I was hoping that it'd be somebody that I cared about, someone that I would be so shocked that they betrayed those people, and I wasn't surprised. Like, the person that was picked to be the person to betray the Institute was very obvious. It was the obvious choice, which is why I didn't think it was gonna happen, but then it did, and I felt like I was cheated out of a great plot, a great storyline, a great revenge line. Like, you could have picked somebody who actually was a true Shadowhunter, someone who cared about the Institute at some point but cared about something else more. I feel like it would have been way more interesting to have somebody who I liked, or a likable character, pull that stunt, but it was somebody that most people don't like. So the only 2 red tabs in the Clockwork Princess that I have are just for suicide ideation, so they're not discussed in depth at all. They just are in a line. They're just there. Seeing it might trigger a memory or something that could be very difficult for you to get through, so I made sure to tab that just so you guys were aware if you plan on reading this series and you haven't yet. Let's talk about this last book. Clockwork Princess, I gave 4 stars, and rightfully so. It definitely earned it. This book definitely wrapped up everything well. I told you guys in my wrap-up video for December when I read Clockwork Angel, I have a hard time rating one book in a series. I'd rather rate an entire series, because I feel like a series or a trilogy or a duology, whatever it is, the story is not just in one book, it's in all the books combined. So I will give at the end my overall rating for the series. But I didn't love it, but I really liked it and I really enjoyed it. I even cried. But this book follows Tessa, obviously the whole gang, Tessa and Jem and Will, and they're on the brink of war with the Automatons and the Magister, but also Charlotte, who was the head of the institute in London. Her position is being threatened, and that's really important to her because the person, a part of the Clave, who picked her because they were close to their family members and they thought that she would be the best person for the job. However, in this book we see that there is some breakdown in the Clave. Everyone doesn't agree on what's best for the institute, and we see that in this time period how women are looked at as being less than, as people who can't lead something, who can't be in charge because we're too emotional, we're too invested, we're too sympathetic and empathetic with people, and we can't run anything. But Charlotte proves to all those men in the Clave that she can run an institute because she is emotional, because she has emotions, she has feelings, and she confronts them because she's sympathetic and empathetic. And those are no weaknesses, those are strengths. So I will give Cassandra her kudos for that in this book. I think she definitely did a great job of showing how women can be powerful, whether you're the kind of person who commands a room when you walk in the door, or someone who's a little more soft-spoken but has power in their emotions and what they say to people on an individual level. Everyone has their own superpowers, everybody. So I did enjoy that. The action was great. People died in this book and I was waiting for it. I was like, okay, which is so weird because when I first started reading fantasy, I was like, I don't want anyone that I like to die in this book, like in any books. The more fantasy that I read, the more I'm just like, I need higher stakes, and the plot in this book was definitely thicker. It gave me more. The writing definitely improved. The characters in this book finally had their own personality, because I know for a long time it was difficult for me to kind of read about Jem and Will because they are parabatised. It's a bond deeper than blood brothers, and I love that whole thing. At the same time, it almost felt like Jem and Will were one person in the first book and half the second book. And yeah, they had different personalities, but we're reading this book through Tessa's point of view. It was like reading about the same person every time she talked about Jem or Will. Finally, in book 3, they seemed differentiated, and so I love that. I will say the love triangle in this book was different than most that I've read. Usually in love triangles you kind of choose one more than the other, and although in the last book I definitely had a preference, in the first 2 books I didn't. I loved Jem and Will equally. I didn't care who she ended up with as long as she picked one, because at that point I was getting annoyed and I felt like Jem and Will deserved better from Tessa, because she definitely struggled with picking someone. She never really picked. She ended up with both of them. Being that I don't like when people string other people along, so I feel like at moments she was stringing along Jem, she was stringing along Will, and they both didn't mind. Yeah, I will say she definitely wrote a love triangle in a way that I've never read one before. I think that Will and Tessa had the most chemistry and the most organic chemistry. I feel like Tessa and Jem also had chemistry, but it just was a little more forced. Something about it just always felt off to me. I think that his love for her was very real, but hers towards him never felt real, especially because of how it came out in the first place, so I never believed it anyway. The love triangle was interesting. The epilogue though, let's talk about the epilogue, because I'm gonna insert a picture of me crying here. I did do like a live update on Instagram because y'all asked me to during a live stream, so I did that, and you're welcome. A little embarrassing, but I did it. The epilogue was so sweet. In the epilogue we fast forward through to 2000, I think in 6 or 8, and so mind you, we went from 1882 to 2008, so a freaking big difference in time. There are some people who are no longer there, and we know that Tessa for sure is there, and so she lives a very long life, and there are some people in her life that are no longer a part of it. And that epilogue, it just ran through all these moments and these memories very quickly that I know I get to actually live through in some of the other series. I think in the Dark Artifices or the more intimates, I'm not sure which one, but in later books in the other series I get to kind of experience these long term, but we get a very quick glimpse into a time lapse here, and whew, that was really great. I feel like her strongest writing in these 3 books is in the epilogue. I think that she conveyed this moment of emptiness for Tessa and longing. It was so good. I'm not gonna cry again, but it was just really that good. Overall, what did I rate the whole series? I would rate the series as a whole 3.5, although one of my subscribers / I call them my friend because like they're funny, but actually told me that if I read the book in publication order, these 3 books would hit a little bit harder. I don't know about that. I don't like the time frame. I can get past that it's in 1882, but there are some parts of it I was just not. Yeah, overall I would rate the series a 3.5 out of 5, which is not bad. That's actually a good rating. That means I would recommend the series to people, because I would. I think that the last book, and in like a quarter of the last quarter of the second book and the last book together, definitely make this series worth it. Of course, it is a part of a large very large series that I'm still reading. I'm actually on City of Bones right now, so I'm still reading this daggone series. So long, but I would definitely recommend the whole thing. So yes, that is the first little wrap up for my ongoing series here on my channel, of me reading throwback series. If you guys have any suggestions for books for me to read that came out a long time ago that I should read and dive into and explore and talk about with you guys, let me know in the comment section. What are your favorite series that you read when you were in high school or middle school or whatever? I'm here to take all the recommendations, and I'm just here to add some more because this is gonna be a year-long thing. I'm really excited to do this and to talk about some of y'all's favorite books with you. So if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and I will see you on my next video. Goodbye.